brighter even than the snow itself. "This is really beautiful," said a girl who had come into the garden with a young friend, and they both stood still near the snowman, contemplating the glittering scene. "Summer cannot show a more beautiful sight," she exclaimed, while her eyes sparkled. "And we can't have such a fellow as this in the summertime," replied the young man, pointing to the snowman. "He is capital." The girl laughed and nodded at the snowman, then tripped away over the snow with her friend. The snow creaked and crackled beneath her feet, as if she had been treading on starch. "Who are those two?" asked the snowman of the yard dog. "You have been here longer than I. Do you know them?" "Of course I know them," replied the yard dog. "The girl has stroked my back many times, and the young man has often given me a bone of meat. I never bite those two." "But what are they?" asked the snowman. "They are lovers," he replied. "They will go and live in the same kennel by and by, and gnaw at the same bone. Away! Away!" "Are they the same kind of beings as you and I?" asked the snowman. "Well, they belong to the master," retorted the yard dog. "Certainly people know very little who were only born yesterday. I can see that in you. I have age and experience. I know everyone here in the house, and I know there was once a time when I did not lie out there in the cold, fastened to a chain. Away! Away!" "The cold is delightful," said the snowman. "But do tell me. Only you must not clank your chain so, for it jars within me when you do that." "Away! Away!" barked the yard dog. "I'll tell you. They said I was a pretty little fellow once. Then I used to lie in a velvet-covered chair up at the master's house and sit in the mistress's lap. They used to kiss my nose and wipe my paws with an embroidered handkerchief, and I was called Ammy, dear Ammy, sweet Ammy. But after a while, I grew too big for them, and they sent me away to the housekeeper's room, so I came to live on the lower story. You can look into the room from where you stand and see where I was once master, for I was indeed master to the housekeeper. It was a much smaller room than those upstairs, but I was more comfortable, for I was not continually being taken hold of and pulled about by the children as I had been. I received quite as good food, and even better. I had my own cushion, and there was a stove. It is the finest thing in the world at this season of the year. I used to go under the stove and lie down. Ah, I still dream of that stove. Away! Away!" "Does a stove look beautiful?" asked the snowman. "Is it at all like me?" "It is just the opposite of you," said the dog. "It's as black as a crow, and has a long neck and a brass knob. It eats firewood, and that makes fire spurt out of its mouth. One has to keep on one side or under it to be comfortable. You can see it through the window from where you stand." Then the snowman looked and saw a bright polished thing with a brass knob and fire gleaming from the lower part of it. The sight of this gave the snowman a strange sensation. It was very odd. He knew not what it meant, and he could not account for it. But there are people who are not men of snow, who understand what the feeling is. "And why did you leave her?" asked the snowman, for it seemed to him that the stove must be of the female sex. "How could you give up such a comfortable place?" "I was obliged to," replied the yard dog. "They turned me out of doors and chained me up here. I had bitten the youngest of my master's sons in the leg because he kicked away the bone I was gnawing. Bone for bone, I thought. But they were very angry, and since that time I have been fastened to a chain and have lost my voice. Don't you hear how hoarse I am? Away! Away! I can't talk like other dogs any more. Away! Away!" That was the end of it all. But the snowman was no longer listening. He was looking into the housekeeper's room on the lower story, where the stove, which was about the same size as the snowman himself, stood on its 4 iron legs. "What a strange crackling I feel within me," he said. "Shall I ever get in there? It is an innocent wish."